to here we go. All right, so we've got this session recording. We intend to post this later so that those who cannot make it live can certainly access this. All right, so let me just tell you a little bit about the MCAA. The MCAA is Marietta College's all-volunteer alumni association. We have a council of 21 volunteers who meet regularly to develop programming. We are particularly proud of two key series that we've been working on this year. The first is our Connect 4 series, which is a conversation among 4 members of a particular major or interest or sport. It connects a current student, a recent graduate, an experienced alumni, and a professor, all talking about their experiences at Marietta and beyond. Our second initiative, which just launched this year, is the Pio to Pio network, which you can find on LinkedIn. This was specifically created to encourage collaboration, engagements, and connections among alumni and students as well. We have a LinkedIn page, Pio to Pio Network, so find that, connect. It's a great place to share job opportunities, questions, and really just get to know your fellow alumni. One other key item that we do is we partner with the Office of Alumni Engagement at Marietta College to host regional events. We're back after a couple of years of pause during the pandemic, and it's always great to meet new faces. So if you haven't had a chance yet to check out a regional event, make certain you're following on Facebook or social media, the Office of Alumni Engagement and the Marietta College Alumni Association, and keep an eye on an event happening near you. Three other things I'm going to mention about the MCAA. One of our key initiatives is today, the Day of Giving, where we advocate for alumni to participate and donate to Marietta and to programs of their choice. Nancy Kaplan-McCann does an absolutely fantastic job in leading this initiative, and we're very appreciative of her, Honey Gordon, Laura Reagan, Kennedy Clyde, and really the whole team for putting together an enormous effort to really encourage folks to step up and support. 2 more key areas. The MCAA also has alumni awards. You can read all about this in our section of the website. We're always open for, of the website of Marietta College under Alumni Engagement, look for awards. We are always looking for nominations. So please take a look, peruse, and let us know if you have someone that you think should be honored. And finally, we are always looking for new members. We really strive to have a broad diversity of representation on the council, both in geography, in thought, perspective, graduating years. So if you would like to participate with us, or if you think somebody would make a great addition, again, take a look at the submission form on our website and let us know. So with that, I'd like to introduce President Margaret Drugovich. I think President Drugovich is going to take us through some new and key points about the college's current situation and Marietta forward. And I really look forward to not only hearing what she has to say, but hearing any questions that might arise as well. So President Drugovich, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Maureen. I really appreciate your leadership, Maureen. I've really enjoyed getting to know you in the MCAA Council during my time here since the beginning of July. So thank you again for leading. It matters. Speaking of leading, thank you all for caring so much about the college to participate in this time together today. I'm really grateful to have this opportunity to talk with you and to meet a larger number of you. So thank you for spending that time and for making this session a priority. We have with us today our relatively new Vice President for Enrollment Management, Heidi Terry. And I wanted to give Heidi a few minutes just to talk with you so that you could get to know her voice, get to know her just a little bit before I launch into an update on where the college is. So if it's okay with you, Maureen, I'm going to go ahead and have Heidi introduce herself. And Heidi, just tell everybody a little bit about you.
Sure. Well, thank you for this opportunity. For those of you who have not yet had an opportunity to learn a little bit more about me through the announcements of the hire, I am an alum. I'm a twice over alum. I actually have my undergraduate degree from here as well as my graduate degree. And I actually worked here for almost 7 years as the assistant registrar back in the 90s. So some of you may have been students when I was the assistant registrar. I've been away for quite a while in higher education. I have acquired 43 years of experience in higher education, a large portion of that in enrollment management, with a wide range of institution types and sizes, ranging from as small as 1,000 to as large as close to 22,000. It is my distinct privilege to be back at my alma mater. I love this institution. I say this with the utmost sincerity. When I stepped on campus for my interview, it felt like I was returning home. And I can say also with the utmost sincerity is the work that's happening at the cabinet in my month and 3 days that I have been here has been some hard work. But I will tell you, it's a very caring environment. Folks love this institution and want to see the best for it. I believe I've got a great team. I have had many alumni reach out to me, and for that I am so grateful, because it speaks to the passion that our alumnus have for the livelihood of our school and for what we can provide to our current and our future students for many years to come. Unpacking a lot of stuff, have some ideas. Definitely want to take moments to plug in alumni to help us with our enrollment initiatives. But the thing that I really want to share with folks is that everything that I will do in partnership with the campus community and our alums and volunteers will all be data informed. So I'm a big one for overlaying lots of data sets, thinking about initiatives, and then collectively coming up with strategies on what we can do. So I want to thank you in advance. And I just really anticipate digging in and using the expertise and passion and interest that my fellow alums have. So thank you for letting me join you today. I actually have some great phone calls to make. I started last night. I'm going to finish up here in a few moments. It's our Premier Scholar Award winners. It's probably some of the best experiences I have in the work that I do is to award substantial scholarships to well-deserving students so that they'll join us and be part of the Pioneer family. All right. Thank you, everybody.
That's great. Heidi, thank you so much for joining us today. And we know you might be able to hang for a few minutes, but you've got to go off and make those important calls. And I'm really grateful that Heidi accepted our invitation to join us.
Yeah,
we've got,
really.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. We've got a really nice team shaping up. I was just meeting right before, in the hour before this meeting, with our new Chief Financial Officer, Sarah Mook. We just said goodbye to our interim Chief Financial Officer, a guy by the name of Mike Bruce, who was phenomenal. And I so much enjoyed working with him over the last few months. And working with Mike Bruce gave us the opportunity to do the work that I'm going to talk with you about now. So I know that there are a number of questions out there, and rather than have you get all of your input from Facebook, I thought you might hear it directly from us, exactly what has transpired over the last few weeks and actually the last couple of months. And I'm going to leave plenty of time for questions. So I'm assuming, Maureen, this is a topic of the hour, and people would really like to understand what's taken place.
Oh, definitely. Yes. Take it
Okay.
away.
I see head nods. That's excellent. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up my screen here. If all is going well, you should see a diagram that says July 2023. Everybody on it?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. So here's what's happened over the last few months. So in July of 2023, the college had prepared an FY24 budget and presented it to the board. So they had prepared the board in the summer, and presented it to the board, and then the board acted on that budget very early in July. And when the board acted on that budget, they believed that the budget was balanced, that they were considering and they had been offered a balanced budget proposal where all the expenses aligned with our anticipated revenues, as you see in this simple diagram. But then when Mike came on and joined us, I asked him if he would start running regular cash flow reports for me in November. And when he started to run those in November, it was very obvious to me and to Mike that the cash flow didn't make sense based on this idea that we had a balanced budget. In fact, long story short, we very quickly, looked into the details of this and discovered that, in fact, not all the expenses that had been planned for FY24 were actually included in the budget that the board had approved. And so they thought they were approving a balanced budget, but in fact, the cash flow was demonstrating that there were many expenses that had not been included. And the majority of that expense that had not been included was personnel-related expense. And, we could go into why personnel, that should be one of the easiest things to measure, et cetera, et cetera. We could go into that if you're interested in it. I can tell you my theory about what happened, but that is the fact of it. So as soon as that happened, I said, well, we got to fix this. We cannot operate in this fiscal year and in future fiscal years under this kind of an unbalanced budget. So, obviously this was an unwelcome surprise. Nobody wanted to see this. We had just finished the academic program review, which had been a 2-year process that the college had been going through, and our really great provost, Kathleen Doherty, and I and all of the faculty here at the college have been working on that, and we finished that. We finished the Marietta Forward plan, which is really a tactical plan for how we're going to operate in the next 4 or 5 years, and then this unwelcome surprise. Okay, but that's the business, right? You have to deal with it. It is very important that we discovered it. If you're going to find a surprise like this, and for any of you who manage your household budgets carefully or your business budgets, you know how important it is. If you're going to have a problem, and I've always said this to people that I've worked with, if we have the advantage of time, we can solve any problem. It's difficult to solve problems if you don't have the advantage of time. So it's very important that we discovered it as early in the year as we did. So what did we do? We immediately reviewed all these expenses. We created a plan to address this current year deficit. All of the recommendations for the changes were made by senior level managers, not by me, not by the board. And in fact, we have not even shared with the board the names of the individuals who were impacted, because really that's not the board's responsibility. That's management's responsibility to make sure that we run the college in the way that we should. And those individuals that are impacted, it's not a matter of picking favorites, not a matter of picking people that we like or we don't like. It really had to do with what did we need to do to deliver on our promises to our students, and where could we save money this fiscal year that would enable us still to deliver those promises. So all of these ideas came from senior level budget managers. I either accepted or rejected them. I accepted 99% of them. There were a couple that I thought went a step too far and would put into question our ability to deliver on our promises. We submitted that plan to the board around the 20th of January, and the board approved that plan on February 6th. So today is the 14th. Happy Valentine's Day. This is a short while ago, but we moved as quickly as we could to make a really firm determination of what was happening and what could we do about it in this fiscal year. So this kind of a problem is an interesting problem because it's a current year problem. So these expense reductions have to influence FY24 operating results. We can't just push it off to the future. We got to deal with it and got to deal with it now. So even though there are only 5 months left in the budget, we needed to deal with it now so that we could get some benefit in this fiscal year. But it's also a future year problem. The expense reductions that we need to make have to be durable reductions. And I'm going to say a few more words about that. in a minute when I talk about the kinds of changes we're making. So the plan that we submitted to the board, so again, we discovered this in late November. We submitted a plan to the board on January 20th. Those darn holidays got in the way a bit, but they didn't, because this team was amazing. If any of you have any doubts about the quality of the senior leadership team that are here, I'm super impressed by them. They have been undaunted. They care so much about this place. They are so dedicated that the amount of work that they did over the holidays, over the weekends, late into the night, I mean, you know, text messages that we're exchanging at 11:30, at 12 at night, just to get the work done. I am super impressed. They've been awesome. Nobody's faltered. Nobody stepped back from the challenge of this. So it's been super impressive. So we were able to identify a total of $2.41 million net. Because some of these changes have to do with personnel, you can't just walk away from the obligations that you have with people, depending on their contracts with us, depending on the severance agreements that we have or we decide to have with individuals who aren't otherwise protected by some kind of severance arrangement. We have obligations that we have to fulfill. And so we have some expenses to go along with making these decisions. So it's $2.4 million in net. That includes $1.2 million in net reductions this year, this fiscal year, another 1.1 in incremental net reductions next year, and then a little straggler out there into FY26. The board approved the plan also for balancing the budget in FY24 in light of the changes that we're making. And that's important because theoretically, I suppose, the administration could have just made the changes and perked right along. I thought that it was important that the board take the time, review the recommendations we were making because they were material, and actually reapprove a plan for balancing the FY24 budget, which they thought they had done in July. But this is a material change, and I thought it was incredibly important that they consider it, think about it, discuss it with us, poke their holes in it, and then ultimately approve the plan. So this plan includes 36 current employees who will lose their positions over the next 3 years. So not everyone will lose their position in FY24. Most of that savings that we're taking in FY24 are through vacancies that we will not be refilling. That doesn't mean that we're not filling vacancies. I am not an across-the-board kind of person. I think that when you do across-the-board cuts or you make across-the-board salary cuts or reductions in budget, you know, I have a colleague who said to his colleagues, every department has to give up one position. I just don't think that's strategic enough. I think that we are complex enough that we need to be a little more thoughtful about that and continue to make sure that we deliver on our promises to our students. Those 36 employees include 22 current full-time and part-time faculty. That does not include any tenured faculty. It does include 4 tenure track faculty, 2 of which were announced in the fall through the academic program review. And I should say that when I talk about all these positions together, I'm also including those positions that were impacted through the academic program review. In addition, there are 14 administrative employees. And by the way, I suppose we could have kept the academic program review counts or numbers of people out of it. I thought it was clearer to bring them in so that we could see the totality of the changes that we were making. And then when you add the 13 currently unfilled positions that we felt we could leave unfilled, we have a total of 49 roles that will be eliminated over the next 3 years. Several of those individuals, their last day of employment at the college will be at the end of February. And then we have a severance that we've offered them. Other people, their last day of employment will be technically in August. Others, their last day of employment will be at some point next year. Why do we have to eliminate positions? Well, if you're going to find $2.4 million net, it's going to have to touch the employment side of the house. 66% of our budget is of our operating budget, not exclusive of aid. 66% of our operating budget is personnel. So it's difficult. We did find, of the total amount that we're reducing, we did find about $930,000 of operating expense, non-personnel related. But you can see that when you have this kind of a ratio, we didn't do a target. We didn't say, let's find 25 faculty, let's find 15 employees, let's cut 10% of our operating budget. We didn't do that. Individual budget managers went into their budget, looked at the curriculum, looked at the staffing of various academic departments, looked at staffing for administrative roles, and came back with recommendations. So all the impacted employees have been notified of this. We are not releasing their names because we feel like, the people that are most impacted are the people who are going to be losing their jobs. And so I know that we've had many questions, who, and we're not releasing their names. Individuals who have been impacted by this can share that with that information with others at the time that they feel is most appropriate. As it comes to various responsibilities at the college that need to be filled, even though a particular position may be vacated, that's our responsibility to make sure that those roles and responsibilities are covered. Just to give you a few examples of non-compensation operational budget cuts, this was not easy to find operational budget cuts not related to compensation. It's hard because some of our budgets already, in my opinion, run too lean as it is. But you can see some examples there of the way we are cutting some of the things that currently are in our budget. We are closing Residence Hall. We are eliminating men's and women's tennis. All the remaining 21 sports will continue. We're sweeping some athletic restricted advertising, just for advertising. So I'm talking about, around Don Drum, there are advertisements because local advertisers want to get the eyeballs of the people in the stadium. Up until this point, none of the advertising revenue associated with the athletic program came to help the budget support the athletic program. So it was all used kind of like as cash on the side. And we're taking a completely different approach to budgeting, which I'll talk in a minute about. So restricted funds that are restricted to a particular purpose, they're going to continue to be restricted to that purpose. But this is just one example of how we're going to take a different approach to managing the budget. We're reducing a bunch of stipends, lots of stipends here. And then we're doing some things like changing software. And so this is just one example of how the trustees will also be inconvenienced by these changes because we're going to be changing the way that we help them manage their work. What are we not changing? And this is probably just as important as what we are changing. We're not changing our commitment to student programming and services. So we recently had just in the course of business resignation of a member of our wellness staff, psychological counseling and wellness staff. I just approved the rehire this morning. So there where we need to rehire, we are rehiring, especially when it comes to student programming and services. We are continuing our commitment to financial aid to support our students. So we are not faltering. We're not doing across-the-board budgets. I mentioned that. There's no across-board salary reductions. I mentioned that. We're not in a hiring freeze. So there are a couple of departments right now that we're advertising this year. We're going to leave those advertisements going, and we're going to hire individuals. We need another faculty member in psychology. We're going to hire. So I want you to be clear. We've made this as quick, but as strategic as we can. And I want to go back to say how proud I am of this cabinet. There wasn't a single one of them that put their arms around their area and said, don't touch my stuff. Everybody came forward in a very responsible way so that we could do this well and address these questions directly and well and strategically. And then our plans to go forward with Marietta Forward we're continued to be committed to Marietta Forward. Marietta Forward becomes even more important given what it is and what its focus is. It's even more important now than it was when we created it in the fall. And there we're doing some other things that are already on the table, like launching our Center for Earth, Energy, and Environment. We're soon going to start advertising for a director for that center. So I want to just be very clear. This is a beautiful place. We have wonderful people who work here. When we have to have colleagues step out, these are people we have lunch with, we have meetings with, we talk with. They're important people. Our students love them. This is not a question of personality. It's not a question of, picking favorites. Who do we like? Who do we not like? It's really a question of analyzing and assessing what can we do in the face of this significant challenge. And I've talked a lot about people, and I'm going to sum up here. I've talked a lot about people, about how do we prepare for the future. Well, first of all, we always have to keep our students' needs as our top priority. And I think it's been a kind of rocky couple of years at the college. I think we've not always kept our students first. And that is just a principle that I think we must continue to do. Students first, students first. We also have to be very disciplined. We talk a lot about accountability since I've been here, and I'm happy to talk with you a little bit more about that, but we need to keep our facts in view. We need to hold ourselves accountable. And we're going to build our FY25 budget from the ground up. We're going to specify uses, and we're going to specify sources. And as far as I know, it's been a long time since a budget has been built in that way here. It's not going to be something that any of us are looking forward to doing. It's kind of like what some of you know is a zero-based budget. So people will have to establish it. And this is really important because while people are well-meaning, I would say that maybe we've been casual about the way we've done budget management. And now this is the perfect moment to make sure that we hold ourselves accountable for budget management in a way that will help us to constantly evaluate. And that's my last point on this slide. Our continued success really requires continuous adaptation. You'll appreciate this. I met with students last night to talk with them about these changes that we announced last week. And I sent all the students an email first thing in the morning on February 9th. So as soon as we had an opportunity to talk to our employees who were impacted, then we sent a summary email out to the college employees and also to the students explaining everything that we had done. And student came last night and they asked questions. And I asked them, how many of you have ever heard of the company by the name of Kodak? And I think there were 3 students. And when you think about it, you think back to the 70s and 80s when Kodak, was a multi-billion-dollar company and might have been the biggest company in the 70s in the US. When I think about it, and yet here we are, and they've kind of slipped into obscurity. They kept changing. They started as a buggy whip company. One of their partners was a buggy whip manufacturer, and they changed and changed. They created cameras, they created film, they put cameras in people's homes. They changed and changed and changed until they stopped changing. And now within a couple of decades, these students don't even recognize the name of that company. We can't do that. And the best way for me to summarize it is we have to evaluate it. If it's not working, we need to fix it. If we can't fix it, then we need to stop doing it. And that kind of, if you read the history, and my colleagues know they're sick of me quoting the history. I've got both volumes of our history on my desk. I've got it all marked here. I think about our history a lot. And if you read our history, you'll see there have been moments like this in the past, and it really depended on us. It's our turn to manage through this. There have been moments like this where the board had to figure out a way to pay 6 months' salaries in arrears at the college. So we have, throughout our history, like so many colleges and universities, go through the cycles of ease and cycles of challenge. And it's our turn to make sure that Marietta makes it through this cycle appropriately so that we can unfold our future. Last thing I'm going to talk about here is Marietta Forward. Now, you already know about Marietta Forward. We launched it. It's on the website. We turned it from a proposal that the board approved in October into a bona fide plan. We have key performance indicators in that plan. It's on the website. Please look at it. But the reason it's so important, and it was very important before we made these last moves because of the budget, it's more important now. It's all about student success. How do we get our students to remain? How do we retain them? How do we get them through their Marietta College degree so that they walk across the stage with our diploma in their hand? So it enhances our tuition revenue by having those students remain. It enhances our tuition revenue by starting new programs, both undergraduate and graduate, online and residential, which is important. We're not doing a lot with online right now. We have to do that. Also, workforce development, education. These are all important ways for us to diversify our revenue streams. And you've read plenty in the paper about what is happening in terms of the number of students who are eligible to go to college. There are a smaller number of students eligible to go to college in most areas of the United States. That drop is going to become more acute. And on top of that, a higher proportion of those students are going to choose not to go to college, or at least so people say at this point. And you can understand why. State governments are reducing their requirements for for adults to come and work with them. They don't have to have a bachelor's degree anymore to take many governmental jobs. It's a workforce issue. I just heard someone told me that a couple of weeks ago, the Navy made a decision that they're no longer requiring a high school degree or GED in order to enroll in the Navy. It is a workforce issue. So we're going to be competing for students to come here as part of this process. So we need to evaluate what we do. If it's not working, fix it. If we can't fix it, stop doing it. And bring programs online and support programs. And when I say online, I mean both residential and literally online, support those programs so that our students can be successful. So I'm just going to do now just 2-3 quick Q&As because these questions keep coming to me. Is the college going to close? No. We took these steps like pronto to balance the budget for this fiscal year and to create a more sustainable future for the college. We are all committed to the future. Are we canceling more programs? No. The programs that we canceled in the fall, and we're teaching those students out now. So this round is about individual changes. It's not about canceling any additional academic programs. And a question I often get, how do we make the choices about position reductions? And you'll appreciate this. I had a student, I did 3 hours of open office hours last Friday for our students, and a student came in and he said, I really like this particular faculty member who will no longer be working here next year. Why'd you pick him as opposed to so-and-so? And he gave me a suggestion of someone else, another faculty member that we should have retired or reduced instead. And I just explained to him what our principles are when we have to consider eliminating faculty roles. We really avoid eliminating faculty who are tenured unless we eliminate a whole program, and there are no additional whole program reductions in this phase of our work. I've already talked to you about who made the decisions and the changes. Those recommendations came to me. I approved them, and ultimately I sent a plan up to the board and they approved them. And have all the changes been made? So we don't plan any additional changes at this time, but my final statement to you will be one that I've just now made 3 times. We need to evaluate what we're doing. If something's not working, we need to fix it. If we can't fix it, then we need to stop doing it. And that's just a discipline that is incredibly important. And I don't want to get in Kodak's face, but I would say that if Kodak had followed that premise, maybe our students would know who they were at this point. So That's the review that I wanted to go through with you. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to talk further about Marietta Forward if you'd like. I'm happy to spend the rest of the time that we have together in any way that Maureen would choose. So Maureen, I'm going to toss it back to you and we'll decide what's next.
Okay, great. So we do have some questions that have come in advance in particular, and just one or two that have come through now. So the first one was, how did we get to the Marietta Forward plan? Who was involved? And more importantly, will this end when you leave?
Okay, so it's a little garbled, but I think your question was, how did we get to the Marietta Forward plan? Who was involved?
Mhm.
And what was the last question?
Will it end when you leave Marietta?
Oh, yeah, great. Great question. Thank you for that. So the Marietta Forward plan actually came out of a planning process that the board had sponsored back in 2022. They brought in the Association of Governing Boards to the campus. The Association of Governing Boards, consultant by the name of Paul Friga, came here and did an assessment of our program, talked to a lot of people, talked to folks who work here, faculty, staff, the board, and developed a plan that was beautiful. It was an amazing plan and it was totally undoable. I read through all of that plan. It was super well done. It was well thought out. It was careful. I thought their projections were good, but it was some 27 initiatives that were going to cost something like $25 million. And so when that plan was delivered to the college, again, this is before I arrived, my understanding is that everybody acknowledged how great it was and it didn't go anywhere. So a group of very enterprising members of our community here formed a planning group, and I really have a great deal of admiration for one of our individuals here, an associate provost by the name of Suzanne Walker. Some of you might know her. She and some of her other faculty colleagues and others at the college started working on this thing called Student Ready College. So they said, okay, we don't have any additional money to do this plan. We're not really approving the plan. So we're going to pick up a piece of that AGB work and we're going to walk it forward anyway, just with the resources we have available. And so they had been doing that. And there was a planning committee also that was doing this work. And so when I arrived in July, it was clear to me after I reviewed the AGB report how good it was. It was clear that it was totally unmanageable. And I talked to the board and my colleagues here, let's pick 4 or 5 initiatives that are key to the college. And let's pursue those. Let's not waste this good work. Let's pursue those that are most important to the college. And you know what those are if you've had an opportunity to consider Marietta Forward and actually go out and look at that plan. But I'm going to just do something really quick here. I'm going to share a summary screen so that you can, just in case you haven't had a chance to look, this is a plan that I consider a tactical plan. And there are 5 pieces to it, 5 major initiatives. Fully implementing the Student Ready College part of this initiative. And what that basically means is that we have the right array of support services here so that our students can be successful. I believe, and others here believe, that we do not currently have the full array of support services that are necessary, especially as our students keep changing and their needs keep changing. Strengthening our academic programs. We've already moved through part of that. That was the academic program review. Low enrollment and low growth programs. We decided to eliminate 10 of those programs. That happened in the fall. The other part of strengthening academic programs is if you're going to take programs offline, what are the programs we need to analyze? Which programs need additional investment? The current programs that we have here so that they can be more successful. And then strategic initiative 3 is developing new educational programs focused on non-traditional student education and workforce development. So number 2 is all about our current program. Number 3 is all about new programs and new streams of revenue, dealing with adult non-traditional students, including workforce development programs. 4 is identifying new academic programs at the graduate and undergraduate level, online and not online residential, but really favoring more online than residential. We're not getting rid of our residential programs. Residential programs are important, okay? But in the last 7 years, we started 12 new academic programs at the college. And one of the things that we promised ourselves is that we're not going to do that again without doing research on whether or not students are really interested, one, and secondly, can we promote them in a way that will help us to make sure that we can be successful. So promotion of those programs is really key, because this whole adage of if you build it, they will come, that's not true anymore. There's so much competition for our students in the marketplace that just presenting it is not sufficient. And the fifth is creating campus culture of support for individual leadership, inclusion, and belonging. And this really is an important initiative. It's very closely linked to initiative number 1, but it acknowledges the fact that students have different needs, depending on their backgrounds, depending on their mental health, depending on their socio-demographic backgrounds. We need to more fully embrace that, and also acknowledge that the students in the future are not going to be the students that we've had to this point in time. I think it's in 2045, if I'm correct, there will no longer be a majority racial majority in the United States. That's a major change from where we've been in the past. We need to make sure that everyone feels welcome here, because the students who are coming through the pipeline are going to be more diverse than they've ever been before. So all of these initiatives are really focused on taking care of the students, and in that way, taking care of the college. It's an incredibly important initiative for the college's future. It will not stop with me. The board has approved it. It's bigger than me. I made sure that we focused. I made sure that we pulled a plan together that was actionable and relevant, and really addressed our current needs in a way that would help us to find greater success in the future. The board has approved that. The board has promised us that they will assure the funding of Marietta Forward. So it should last. I can't begin to imagine that we would walk away from it. I won't be here to make that promise, but I'll be very disappointed if that should happen, and I can't imagine it. I can't imagine it.
Thank you. All right, I've swapped my speaker. Hopefully this is a little bit better. We have a few more questions that are coming through. So can you talk about recruitment? Alumni are hearing that the Northeast in particular has not been a focus for the college in the past years or decades. What are the plans going forward?
Yeah. So Heidi and I have spent a lot of time talking about this, and I'm a little puzzled myself about, unless it was a budget related issue, which I think it probably at the beginning and the end of the day was, I'm not really sure myself why we became so tight in terms of our primary, secondary, and tertiary market. It became so constricted. So this spring, we are going to Houston, to Boston, to New Jersey, to Hartford, to Maryland, to upstate New York. We're going to do things that we haven't done in a number of years here. We should. If we're not there, nobody's telling our story for us. So honestly, the best that I can tell you is if there was a strategic reason for becoming more constrained, I don't understand that. My own background is enrollment. I'm guessing that it was a matter of budget that along the way, because it is true. I mean, you get a higher yield on your primary recruitment market than you get on your secondary and your tertiary market. But if all three of those things collapse to be the same thing, you're losing your ability to be present in these other market spaces. And so, you know, this spring we're doing that. We're doing all those national fairs. We're doing other visits along with those. And, you know, I'm hopeful that we can regain some of our reputation in those spaces. And Heidi totally agrees with me about this. It's vitally important.
Okay, great. Another question that has come through, liberal arts. Can you help dispel the myth that the college is somehow abandoning the liberal arts and becoming more like a trade school or community college?
Yeah, I find that really interesting because I guess that probably has to, maybe people feel that way because of the reductions that we made in the academic programs in some areas of music in the fall. And I totally understand that. We're keeping our music program, but I understand that the music therapy, the vocal performance, even though those programs are small, they were beloved by individuals. But and I get that, and I appreciate it. I mean, I used to be a trumpet player. If you don't play the trumpet for 3 days, you're not anymore. But I totally get it. It was a big part of my growing up. When I went to college, the college didn't have a music program that I went to, and I missed that. So we're going to continue to have ensembles, both choral and musical ensembles. But I'm not sure why people believe that we're making some intentional effort to abandon liberal arts. That certainly isn't my agenda. I'm a liberally trained individual. Our provost is a liberally trained individual. Most of our senior staff are. We haven't eliminated any additional programs in the liberal arts, but as I said to a faculty member at our open forum about these changes that I did on February 9th with our employees, I mean, she asked me about that, and I said, we can't be irrelevant. We have to hold on to the things that we think are important. And I think that a liberally trained person is a person who has an advantage in the long run in life and in the workforce. But we can't turn our back on the fact that students who are coming to us want to be able to see a direct connection between the major that they do and what they're going to do for the rest of their career. Along the way, though no one may come here to study history, along the way, students will find history here and they will want to major in it. So we need to keep both things happening at the same time, protect those things that are so important. And there is no discussion, no board discussion, no discussion in this office of deteriorating that. But we need to be able to offer majors that students are going to be interested in. This whole VOTEC thing, and I don't know where that comes from. Should we be offering diesel mechanics? I don't know, but we're not going to. We don't have any plan for doing that. I'll tell you, one of the biggest challenges, if you don't live in Ohio, is the Ohio legislature's support and the Department of Education support for the CCP program. It's called the College Credit Plus program. And it allows students who are in high school to take college credit courses through local community colleges. So one of the biggest challenges that we have at Marietta, and we're going to continue to have, is that a lot of students come to us with advanced standing. Now, we could have a long discussion about why the state of Ohio believes that it's important to have that program. I've got my own theories about it. As usual, it's usually money. It's something having to do with money that's behind that. But we're making a lot of adjustments here on forces that aren't in our control. So the pipeline of students, changes in the way people are advertising for workforce and whether or not they require a degree, state programs like the CCP program, which I think more than a third of our students came to us with advanced standing this last fall. So we're trying to respond to all of these external forces at the same time that we're doing the budget, but no one has talked about eliminating our liberal arts core. If someone's discussing it, they're not talking to me about it. We're just not doing that.
Okay. One other question. So the Marietta Forward Plan did not mention Greek life. Was that a simple omission, or is Marietta going to continue to affirm its approach to Greek life and the value that it delivers to campus?
Yeah, so that was a really astute observation, and someone else pointed out to me that we also didn't mention athletics. The reality is Greek life is important here. I think it should be bigger than it is. I was a little puzzled when I arrived here about why we didn't have more sororities and fraternities, and that's something that I'm working with here. We're currently, the individual who was doing our Greek advising left the college to take another job in the fall. We're replacing that individual. We will have a Greek advisor. But Greek life is the same with athletics. Our responsibility in Marietta Forward was to figure out the best way to support all of our students. And we think that the initiatives that we have in Strategic Initiative 1, the Student Ready College, will be one way to support both athletics and our Greek community. So we didn't pick out, particular programs like that. That wasn't the point. The point was to create a more sustainable base of operations based on providing the kinds of supports that our students need in real time. So, for example, to my mind, we lose too many athletes over time. So they come here, they participate in our programming, and they don't remain. We lose too many students, and they don't remain for various reasons. It's not maybe what you'd think. There are various reasons they don't remain. We need to make sure we have support services there for them. Same thing about mental health issues. Lots of students really stressed. The stuff that you read about mental health in this generation of students, we see it here every day. And so we have to provide the kinds of services. Now, those students might be Greek, they might be athletes, they may be English majors, they may be in the arts. They all deserve the support that we're creating in Marietta Forward. So by trying to be very democratic with the way we supported all of our students, I'm afraid that we may have inadvertently sent the wrong message by not naming particular groups.
Okay, so one last question before we head to Kennedy. As alumni, how can we help?
You can help by coming to us. A couple of things. I got a couple of requests for you. One, if you have a question, ask us. Okay. I want to answer your questions, and I want to do the best I can to answer your questions. And everybody does here. You are so important to this college. You are the future of this place. So if you have any question or anything that you feel is unresolved and you want to discuss it with us, talk to us. The social media thing and some things that I've heard about stuff that's being put out on social media, I don't understand what the end game is there, but I am absolutely dedicated to this place, and so is everybody who's here. And we only want the best things for Marietta, and that's what we're trying to work so hard to make happen here. So that's one. If you have a question, come to us. If you have a suggestion, come to us, and we'll work with you on that so that we can understand your concern and answer your questions. The second thing that you can do is understand as much about what we're doing as you can. Go to our website. Understand Marietta Forward. We put it all out there. We put FAQs out there. We put all of the KPIs out there. We put the entire plan out there. We put a summary out there if you don't have time to read the whole thing. I showed you one slide. Please make yourself as informed as you possibly can so that when people ask you questions, you can give them the real answers. You're super important. Here you are. You spent this hour with us. Please do that. The last thing I would ask you to do, and I am never ashamed of this, support the college financially. We have revenue principally through two sources: tuition and fees, room and board, out of which we fund financial aid. And students who are coming to us have more and more aid needs than they ever have before. So that's one. The second way is through your generosity. And I'm not kidding. It's important to the college. These gifts, this day of giving, critically important to the college. We will do what others before us have done together, or we won't do it. We have to do it together. This is us. These 2 volumes of history on my desk are all about us. It's our turn, And here's a second one. I really want you to engage and be a partner with us. Support this great college. I'm asking you to do that. I did a $5,000 matching pledge to our students for Day of Giving. So I will match the gifts of our students up to $5,000, and we're really challenging them to participate and, make the president pay. This is important. If I feel so, and I'm working really hard to make this work every day, if I feel that strongly about it, I hope you do too.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us and to take us through both the current situation and the new plan. We're going to pass it over to Kennedy Clyde, who hopefully has better audio than I do, for a wrap up. Kennedy, take it away.
Yes, and before I start to speak, I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me. Can thumbs up? Perfect. First and foremost, I want to send a couple of thank yous before I kind of talk about our Day of Giving. First, thank you, Maureen, and thank you, President Drugovich, for an incredible presentation today. I know that we appreciate the information that you provided, and thank you so much, Maureen, for coordinating as well. I also want to give thanks to my wonderful development committee colleagues, Nancy McCann, Renee Gallagher, Honey Gordon, Laura Regan, and Bethany Leslie, who have put an incredible amount of time and effort into the Day of Giving, which is today. But before we get into the details about Day of Giving, I wanted to provide a little bit of a background about me. I am a proud Marietta College graduate, class of 2016, where I was on the volleyball team, I was in Sigma Kappa sorority, and I was involved in student government as well as WCMO TV. So I hope that Lori Smith and Marilee Morrow I can make proud today while I'm talking to you all about the Day of Giving. Currently, I serve in enrollment, actually, at Case Western Reserve University, specifically the School of Nursing, and I'm also able to pursue my my MBA part-time as well, and I'm really enjoying my classwork there. Lastly, this year, I am so honored that I was asked to serve as a member of the Alumni Council, so I could add my own perspective as a member of the Blue Line to the council as well. Now, I share a bit of my past as well as my present with you all today because, truthfully, I see 80 passionate Marietta College alumni on this call who transcend decades of deep Marietta history. And while we've all gone on to different careers and achieved different successes, what really binds us together, two things come to mind. One, our unwavering love for Marietta College, our alma mater, and our want for MC to continue to thrive in the future. And we can all play a role in MC's future. No matter when we graduated or how our community has evolved, there are still so many things that bind us together. And we want today's students to graduate and to succeed in their own chosen careers, just like we have too. Yeah. I know that I am certainly not alone in my wish that they too will join in giving back on this Day of Giving when the time is right. Every single one of us depended on the support of an alumni of Marietta College at one point. And that's why I give my time, my advice, and my financial contributions. Every bit helps. And now I hope you'll join me in this Day of Giving. And as an extra incentive, the Alumni Council will be making an additional $100 donation to Marietta College, up to $5,000 for each new giver that shows their love with a donation before 2 p.m. You can, and I can see it on my screen right now, you can use the QR code you see on your screen to visit our Day of Giving site, check out the leaderboards, see, if your sorority or fraternity or your sport is taking the top of the leaderboard, your class year, etc. And if you haven't done so yet, you can make your own gift to trigger now an additional $100 contribution. On behalf of everyone, but especially the students who benefit from your gifts, thank you. Thank you for your time, your passion, and your generosity. And as always, we all are supportive of Marietta College, and go Pioneers.
Thanks, Kennedy, and thanks to everyone for taking the time to participate today. If you have any further questions, go ahead and email us, alumni@marietta.edu. Many thanks. Get out there and donate. Encourage others to do so. Have a great afternoon, everyone.